My name is Lujaina Alkawi. I am a rising senior at the George Washington University studying biomedical and electrical engineering. And I really want to go into medical devices. Ideally, I would like to be a cardiovascular surgeon. Going to high school and middle school and elementary school, I was basically the only Muslim in every class I was in. I don't personally regard myself as a spokesperson, delegate, or representative of Islam, Muslims, or Muslim women, but I do recognize the power that my headscarf alone has. As soon as somebody sees me, they see, a Muslim identity, and whether I accept that identity or not, I have to accept the fact that I will, perceive an image of Islam or Muslims somehow to the person who might not know a lot about Islam and Muslims. People who are not Muslim and don't know a lot about Islam and Muslims get wrong the idea that Muslims are out to get them and out to create a campaign to change America overnight. And I will say, I don't think an average American Muslim has time for that. And so why would they want to create a horrible environment for other people, and would they know they want good for them and their families? I had to make sure that I was cautious with how my words came out and how I kind of acted in some ways, because I know if they see, Lujaina is acting like this, all Muslims act like that, and that's definitely not true. And that's such a problem with the Muslim community in America, because Western Muslims have to deal with this all the time. That was an incentive for me to be extra good and extra academic, because I wanted to help shape the Muslim American label.
My name is Asad Walker, also known as Ultra. I paint graffiti in Washington, D.C. and teach kids and adults all about graffiti culture. It's kind of a declaration of identity. I love teaching kids. I think kids are amazing. It just really gives me hope in humanity to see kids learning and interacting with each other. They're so much better at it than we are as we get older, I guess. I definitely think that people are kind of prejudiced against Islam by the media, by politicians, and by kind of the lack of knowledge of what Islam is in this country.
One of the most important things we do is educate people about what the meanings of the word hip hop are. People often do, when talking to me about hip hop, is they ask me about marginalized communities. And it's a strange question to me, in part because hip hop isn't marginal. It hasn't been for a very long time. The primary consumers of rap music, which is usually what they're talking about when they ask me about hip hop, are white, mostly male Americans. And so it's strange to me that people who are not a part of hip hop don't know that their children, their friends, their neighbors are the primary consumers of this thing that they think happens in marginal communities that are mostly black and brown. Because ultimately these communities are about bringing people together towards greater purposes. We've gone from being a Saturday program to a 7-day-a-week program that offers classes for young people in 13 different art forms, and now adults as well. That's part of what Words Beats and Life does, is brings together communities of various kinds, various traditions, to submit our will to the universe or to God together. We showcase those young people at community events, b-boy jams, concerts, festivals, in Washington, D.C. and now all over the world. We've been fortunate enough to visit 12 countries as hip-hop ambassadors, taking the culture to meet people who are already working through hip-hop in their local communities. I think part of the reason why it resonates in Muslim communities is because of this idea of free speech. A Muslim forever becoming a better Muslim. I think the same could be true for a Christian, the same could be said for a Buddhist, ever becoming a better version of yourself. And by that I mean submit to service, to humanity.
Our community, Dar Hijra, is considered as one of the largest Islamic centers, not just only in Virginia, but in the nation. We serve about 40,000 Muslims. We pray 3 Friday prayers and close to 3,500 Muslims who come. We do a weekly food pantry program. So every week we serve close to 400 families. Almost 60% of the beneficiaries from our food pantry are from other faiths. And my role here is to engage the Darul Hijra Muslim community for the betterment of the larger society.
For too long, I think faith communities, particularly the Muslim community in America, has been overlooked. And when we've been talked about when it comes to perceptions and images of Muslims, and when it comes to talking about Muslims and policies that are written about us that impact us and our communities, we have not been at the table, we've been on the menu. And our organization focuses primarily on 2 things: on changing the perceptions of Islam and American Muslims, and changing the policies that impact us. We know our challenges, and more importantly, we know our opportunities, and so I think our voices are critical.
So many places I would travel like a little kid. You know, sometimes I would feel like I was on a carpet. You know, oh Lord, take me, guide me. Man, I've been in areas I know I shouldn't have been in. I've been in one area when I was researching Omar ibn Said's burial grounds, you know. Oh man, this is like out in the woods of 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 the woods. There was nothing but a ditch, you know. And while I was researching out there, you know, I've heard a little tractor, so I went over to the next field and I looked. I saw this guy. I had his Ku Klux Klan hat on, you know, but he didn't have it on to get me. He had it on to keep himself from the sun. But here I'm watching this Klan guy next door. I knew it was time for me to go. We find early Arabic writings in the United States. We as African Americans, we've been oppressed, suppressed. People of color has been oppressed and suppressed around the world. Hatred exists for that fear of the unknown. Our society and the ugliness that we see penetrate and perpetrate throughout is forcing human beings to come together, realizing that we're one, God is one. So this is why I see the story of Muslims in America is a very rich, long story. We're part of the American fabric, man.
I am a conceptual artist, so the concept or the idea behind each piece is the most important element. Can I do systematic art, which is related to my background in science and math. Math and art are, I think to me, they're one thing. It's a way to put 2 things together and make something unique. I like to challenge my audience, so they don't just get something easy. They will have to understand the concept or the math or the equation behind the piece to be able to understand it. How do you convince the world that not every Muslim is a terrorist? And with all of this frustration, I had to talk about it, and I feel like our job as an artist is just like everyone else. We write the history of our time. I was forced by whatever I'm experiencing here, being in America, that I will have to talk about it. Because I do have lots of friends from different religions back home. And I love them, and they don't judge me, and I don't judge them. Like, we're one people, like one family. But then when I moved here, I felt like I am the outsider. I am nobody, I'm different, and I am not part of this. I did a performance piece. I call it structure, but it's like about our society. And it's like I'm comparing this society where I come from and this new society that I'm trying to fit in. So I'm in the dark room, performing, wearing black, using the UV light, and I built this structure made of very thin wood, and it represents our society. So I'm questioning the fact that how could we build a structure that's strong enough for us to live in, yet it will give us the freedom to do things that we wanted to do. By the end of the performance, I had to break it. So I broke the wood and I felt so relief. But then at the same time, I'm representing this society that's very scary to me, that's unsafe, because crime happens in the dark when people doesn't fit in that society. But I learned to be strong, I learned to be confident enough to live and survive.
To be a Muslim in America is a heavy thing to have on your shoulders sometimes. Free Women Writers, it's a collective, all-volunteer collective of Afghan women in Afghanistan and also across the diaspora. We have teams in Mazar, Kabul, and the DC metropolitan area. And we host events, we publish books, resource kits for women who are facing violence. We publish poetry. Our main goal is basically to advocate for gender equality and women's rights, to connect women to each other and kind of voice our stories, what we hope to do, and creating this platform for all that to happen. The main message of our book, you're not alone in facing what you are facing. You can find support in the people around you, and you can overcome whatever it is that's in your way by little steps, and just believing in yourself and believing in the power that you already have.
I'm running for school board for 2019. Fairfax is a huge county, so we have 1.2 million people. I'm really excited about trying to work on a board that's basically charged with making a better community for everyone through the education resources that I provided. I strive to be accessible. I hope to set an example for what servant leadership is and redefine what it means to be a politician. My favorite thing about being Muslim, a connection to a global vision that forces you to improve your own character and your own self first and foremost. This concept of being a khalifa, within our tradition, it's the idea of being stewards of the earth, of taking care of the planet, of taking care of those around you, of your community. If I had the opportunity to speak to every American, let's think about how we can make this a better country for all of us. Let's think about how we can make this a better community. What's the step we can take to improve ourselves and through improving ourselves, then improve the community around us? What do you do in those situations when someone says something racist or someone asks an ignorant question? And I found an incredible potential solution is to try to hug them or to just say, can I give you a hug? That's always it catches people off guard.
So a few years ago, I think this was when the attacks in Paris happened. And it was a Friday. I remember it was a Friday. I was in Baltimore leading a prayer service there, and I was driving back with my wife in the car, and she wears a headscarf. But as we were driving, there's an elderly man driving beside us on the right side, and he looks at us and he keeps staring us down, and I'm thinking maybe there's something wrong with my car, maybe there's something leaking, I don't know. And then he just starts yelling and pumping his fist and giving me the finger, and he's angry.
I was in 8th grade and I was going to my locker one day, and all of a sudden I hear this boy run up behind my back and he screams in front of the whole hallway, "Inaya is gonna bomb the school." And the hallway was packed, so all these kids heard him yell this and were looking at me.
Being Muslim in America today, it's increasingly difficult. There are a number of challenges that Muslims face here in the US and around the world. A lot of the angst that's coming and propelling the Islamophobia is really coming from a place of misinformation.
But with this as well, I believe that this is an opportunity for us as Muslims, especially Muslims who believe in the Messiah Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, members of the Ahmadiyya community, to actually show people what the true meaning of Islam is. That means to submit or surrender to the will of God, but a derivative of that then also means peace, that are achieving peace through submitting to God. That this is the arena we can come into to show them that these prejudices you have against Islam are unfounded.
At our school, we have a Muslim Student Association in which we strive to have a positive outlook on Islam. There's just a greater need for safe space in high school because a lot of the time students feel a little bit hesitant or unaware about Muslims as a whole because they often tend to believe stereotypes, which is why we have this club where not only Muslims but non-Muslims are welcome to really come and learn more about our religion and also just come together as a community and help out.
First and foremost, I am Muslim, but there's more to me. I'm an American, I'm Pakistani, I'm a student. I have hobbies that I cherish, I have passions that I'm striving to get to every day, and there's just way more to my identity than just my religion.
I knew that being a part of a community of writers was super important to me, and so I was really excited to continue working with other Muslim creatives in DC. You know, our signature event that we do is a monthly open mic where we have an open invitation to anyone who wants to share their story and express themselves. We're really a space to first acknowledge that there's a lack of platforms for Muslims to express themselves in a way that's unique and personal. I think art builds empathy. Islam is all about creating empathy and seeking justice and pursuing justice. So I think for me, art, justice, empathy, like that all connects and it all aligns to each other. Having a space where all of these people come together and can listen to each other and can learn from one another, I think is incredibly transformative, and I hope that a space like the Muslim Writers Collective in DC can be a source of change makers and visionaries, and really help challenge all of us to think about creating, you know, just a better world for everybody.
Until I had a taste of the ways of being broke, stressed every day, feeling like you're gonna choke, but didn't lose hope. God on my mind while I'm on the grind, and I find you can never stop. But you
did your parents already decide? Did they already pick out your wife?
I gave you it all. So to my past lover, there may just come a day where the angels on your shoulders will whisper in your ear, you know, that boy really did love you. There may come a day where the demons laugh behind our backs because they destroyed us. There may come a day where you realize I was a soldier who came home from a war you started, was not welcomed in like family. See, the reason I don't date anymore is because what's the point of feelings without family? No household leaves your soul so exposed to nothing but misery. What starts haram remains haram.
Doves crushed in my ribcage. This is where roses trail through darkness. I can see how old I am by counting the thorns that prick me continuously. And water tastes like copper or something metal when you offer me. I close my eyes and I just imagine her screams, their screams, that should have been calling out to the heavens, but now they're calling out to the void, and I cradle myself at dawn, shaking, trying to remember the shards of life that cut so deeply for all of my sisters. And I inhale, because breaths are currency that I am now afraid to spend at the wrong moment. Is it wrong to feel that I am so wary of losing any more of myself?
I feel there's a need to be able to tell our story. Our Muslim American story has not been told. It's a very rich story.
Where does the word Islam comes from? The word Islam comes from salam. Salam is peace. It's all about peace, like having this peace and the inner peace in yourself as a human being. You feel safe around people, you're kind to them, you're generous. This is what Islam all about, is about sharing, is about love, giving, like the unconditional love. That's Islam.
Get to know us for our values, get to know us as your neighbors, as your peers, as your doctors, as your lawyers, even sometimes as your cab drivers. Get to know us as your fellow Americans.
Where's the lessons that we have to learn? We have to learn that we all have to respect each other as human beings.
Take a few moments to really look inside and reflect on themselves and their connection to everyone else in the world, and in what ways are you contributing to some kind of harm that you're not aware of? In what ways have you been blessed with different kinds of privilege? And what are you doing to make the world a better place? What are you doing with the opportunities you've been given to help other people? And I think once people start to examine that, I think that is really going to change everything.
The average American Muslim just wants to live a normal life for them and their families. I would really love it if one day people who don't know a lot about Islam could just understand that.
So to me as a Muslim, I work every single day against the injustices I see in the world, whether that is the way that people are presented in the media, the kinds of education that young people have.
Muslims overwhelmingly tell us that They believe that if you work hard in this country, you can get ahead. They're proud to be American. They're satisfied with the way things are going in their lives. On the other hand, we see that they have real concerns about the direction of the country. So there definitely is a sort of mixed picture. They're optimistic about their chances of success. On the other hand, increasingly, they're also experiencing discrimination.
The American Muslim community is a community of people who love their God and who love the country as well. We are people who are going to make sure to give our best for the betterment of the society.
If we can start to increase the amount of personal interactions and level of understanding between us as Americans, then I think we're headed in a very positive direction as a country.